All right, let's go ahead and get started. We appreciate everyone that's here in the chamber and everyone that's out there in TV land watching. I've asked Seth Perrins to give us an opening prayer.
Our Father in heaven, we bow our heads as we begin this council meeting. We thank Thee for the opportunity to gather and to conduct the affairs and business of this great city. We ask for Thy Spirit to be with us, to guide and direct our discussions, and to help us to be wise and to do that which is in the best interest of this community. We ask that Thou continue to watch over this great city and bless our residents and those who serve the great people here. Please watch over and protect all, that they may be safe, doing what they do. We thank Thee for the many blessings with which we have been given, and say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I've asked Council Member Beck to lead us in the pledge.
Please stand and repeat the pledge after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, you spun it? Thank you. All right. Public comments. Anyone from the public that'd like to come up and address the mayor and the council, you're welcome to come on up. State your name, and you got 3 minutes to be famous.
I don't want to be famous, but I'll take my 3 minutes. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity. My name is Andrew Kelly. I live up in the growing megalopolis that is Legacy Farms. I know it's a little late, but I want to wish you all Happy New Year and congratulations to the new, year re-elected council members. And before I get to the two topics I want to address, I want to break one of your few rules of this forum, and that is to repeat myself. But I think it bears repeating. I know they're up there. I love SFCN. Thank you guys for your wonderful work. I enjoy very much living in the city, and as unsightly as the billboards are entering the city, I love seeing the fiber to the home sign. And I do say to myself, thank you, SFCN. That is right on there. So I know everyone comes up here and complains, but I want to say some of the things that are wonderful about the city. The next topic I want to address is something that I know plagues city planners all over the country of cities this size, and that is the growing oceans of black deserts masquerading as parking lots that we don't have as big an issue here with, but I can see that it could be a problem. So I just want to bring it to the attention, and let's make it a priority. That I know that the priority here is walkability and fitness, and I enjoy the trails in my neighborhood immensely. They're wonderful. But, for example, over here where Cubby's and Mod Pizza and that wonderful development is, would have been great to have another set of shops in between them and Neaters, and then it would have been walkable rather than the awkward kind of parking spot that's there now. That's people don't know which way to go. And anyhow, the second thing I wanted to comment on goes back to one of the first meetings that I was exposed to when I moved here, and I had heard some of this. We do things the Spanish Fork way. And I wondered what that was. Well, it didn't take long. I was in a meeting that a topic came up where there was a group of fellow citizens, I guess, that live close to Salem that couldn't be connected to our sewer system. So they were facing the prospect of paying a lot more than what you and I would pay. And I marveled at how you guys, without even giving a second thought, said, you know what? The rest of us will cover whatever the difference is there, and let's charge them the same rate. So I learned that night that's what the Spanish Fork way is, and it really, lifted my heart. The reason I bring that up is because the last meeting that you had that I wasn't able to attend that I watched, admittedly a much more complex situation, but I thought I saw something that was not the Spanish Fork way, which is, it was discussed that people that were having trouble paying their utility bills. And I'm sorry to look at you, but I did not like your comment. I thought it was a little out of line and not the Spanish Fork way. Sadly, I don't know any people that are in that situation, but I agree with Mike. $100,000 is a nothing burger out of $45 million. And less than that, $18,000 is a nothing burger. And I feel that, like I said, I don't know any of the people, but I feel very confident that the majority of them have fallen on some kind of hard times that the rest of us are blessed that we haven't. And I feel that we could handle it a different way. I have met people that have struggled with things in the previous city where I lived that we tried to help out, and handling it the way of sending these things to collections, that's doing the exact opposite of what you stand for, which is potentially creating more mental health issues. I think we can do things the Spanish Fork way. I saw that there was uncomfortableness from, few of you guys on that topic. I'm embarrassed that I only just noticed, that's why it came to my mind, I only just noticed on my bill that I can round up. It's a few cents. I'm embarrassed I didn't see that before. I didn't know about it. I'm on the automatic. So I know it's easy to get up here and criticize and then not have any suggestions, but I would offer some suggestions to helping with this. I'm sure all the new people, we're on the automatic use, take it out of a bank account. It's great. I don't even have to think about it. Make us automatically not get a printed bill. There's 50 cents times whatever, 20,000 right there. I don't want my printed bill. I feel guilty every time I open it and go, I just cost the city 50 cents or whatever it cost, more than that, because you got to print it out and whatnot. Now, I could probably do more to make that happen, but let's make it automatic. For all new things, make it opt out or opt in to get it printed so we save that money. The RAP tax, that's a huge amount of free money for the city now. I know that can't be used to help people pay their utility bills, but it's freeing up other budget in the city. I noticed the other day my natural gas bill has another tranche of free money for the city, which I don't begrudge in the form of a tax. That I don't believe the city does anything, but that's free money. But more than that, this is a wonderful city filled with wonderful people that want to help those that may be struggling, and I'm sure for just short periods. Give us opportunities. Promote the rounding up. Promote other things that we could do, to help out. Because I'm sure these are not long-term solutions, and I'm sure they're not all people that got 100 cable channels and not paying it. So anyway, thank you, and continue to do things the Spanish Fork way.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment and maybe clarify a couple of things that I think were maybe misrepresented or misunderstood about the collections situation. First of all, Mr. Kelly, thank you for the comments. We appreciate it, and especially on this issue, because I think there is some misunderstanding. We presented last week a contract for collections that was something we do and have been doing forever. And we don't send to collections every bill or even the bills of individuals that fall on hard times. I think that's a tremendous distinction that needs to be understood in what is reported in the press, discussed online, and understood about this collections bill. For individuals that fall on hard times, we have a very unique program, which Mr. Kelly discussed. It's fairly new, and if every resident gets on board, there will be a treasure trove of dollars available to those families who this month can't make ends meet. Collections and what we approved last week or last council meeting is not that. The items that go to collections are bills that have gone unpaid, and the individuals, frankly, have disappeared. They've usually left the city. And so those bills are bills that individuals have said willingly, knowingly, we're stiffing the residents of Spanish Fork. It's not the poor widow who can't make her ends meet this week. For that individual, there are several programs, one of which we offer. But it's the individual who says, I'm leaving, I'm not paying my last bill, forget you, and they walk away from a $250 bill or more. And all of the residents of Spanish Fork end up paying whatever of that bill isn't covered. And we go through a collections process internally. Some of our staff reach out to those individuals at whatever numbers can be used. And if we get there, we get there. And we probably get there, Kent, with, I'll make up a number, but something, say, half of all of those bills that end up in collections. We get there before we actually send them to collections. The most difficult of the most difficult are those that go to collections. And frankly speaking, it's those individuals that are ending up paying a little bit more. And they have cost the residents of Spanish Fork through this utility and pre-collections process far more than we will ever get back. I think that's an important distinction because from my position, I completely understand the concerns that Mr. Kelly and others have expressed. The contract that we had that was approved a couple of weeks ago isn't for those individuals who have fallen on hard times, but it's for individuals who after months have literally left. They've moved away. Because if they were still in the city, we have a reason to connect with them. We still have a utility account with them. They still are paying with us. We talk with them. We create payment plans. We create ways they can overcome the challenges that they're in. These individuals have left the city and have left a bill knowingly. And maybe it's not the right way to deal with it, but that is the way that any company deals with those kinds of delinquent accounts. We try to go through collections. And I just wanted to make sure.
Seth, do you know of a city that doesn't collect or can't
Send to collections?
send to collections?
I don't know. There may be some. I don't know. Once you get to that delinquent account.
But to be clear, not collecting was not an option, right? We were renewing our contract. Am I correct in saying that? Like, did anybody else misunderstand that?
We've had a collections account.
So we just changed carriers.
Correct. Yeah. And we changed philosophies, which most carriers have different philosophies, and that's one of the things you measure.
Thank you, Seth.
Appreciate that. Anybody else from the public like to come up? Seeing none, let's go to council comments. Councilman Argal.
I don't have anything this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilman Gordon.
Mayor, I just wanted to give a shout out to a particular department in the city that had their busiest day of the year. That was the wastewater treatment facility. In a tour last year, they told me that Super Bowl Sunday is their busiest year. And so I want to give them a shout out and thank them for their hard work in accepting all of those flushes. Obviously, I start that with a little bit of a joke, but I had a water quality board meeting up in Salt Lake last week. And as we met and discussed the harmful algae blooms that are happening throughout Utah Lake and other water bodies, we're discussing a lot of science behind it that, truth be told, is way over like my head. Cyanobacteria microsystems, and no toxins, Mr. Scobes. I just thought my school teacher would probably be better for a lot of this. I'm learning a lot of what causes these harmful algae blooms, and it's fascinating. We get a satellite imagery every day on these waters, our bodies of water, and we track them. And our water quality department at the state level is doing a fantastic job. We are of needs some upgrades at our sewer treatment facility, and I look at Chris Thompson as we are meeting with our director Corey Pierce and those state officials that are helping us guide us in the right direction so that our sewer rates don't go from $27 to $60 overnight. We're trying to do things with good due process in order to make sure that we do something that is scientifically backed and good for the environment and also helps our ratepayers here in the city. Also had a garbage meeting. We tabled our most important decision of the night, which was, as I mentioned earlier, top load versus compactor. We currently use a compactor system at our transfer station. We're vetting and weighing all opinions back and forth versus top load versus compactor, and we will make a decision on that during our next meeting. And last thing I will mention is thankful to be able to go last Wednesday up to Salt Lake for Local Officials Day and rub shoulders with our local legislators. Our session has started. There's a lot of bills that always hit the floor, and sometimes you may not be aware of those, so we always invite you to get involved. They posted a quote from Theodore Roosevelt that said, "You are the government. The government is you, and by being involved, that is how you are part of the government." And this is one way to be involved in the process, reaching out to us here locally and at the state level. And so I encourage all people to do that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Great. Just making a comment about that day of the legislator. If none of you know, Councilman Mendenhall is the president of the League of Cities. He led a discussion there at the luncheon, and he made sure Spanish Fork was represented very well during that whole thing. So that was really good. Even one of the speakers was a local boy, Clint Betts, founder of Silicon Slopes folk, and he mentioned his roots from Spanish Fork. So Mike did a great job, and we're excited to have him representing us up there at the league. Take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thank you. I had a Rotary meeting last week that was very productive. It was Aaron Lowe, a local Rotarian's turn to get a speaker. Had an interesting speaker, maybe not interesting to Junior because it was the wrong football team. What he roots for. There is no wrong football team. All right, it was the one that wears blue, and it was their travel manager. So it was just really interesting to hear from someone behind the scenes that makes the logistics happen for for many moving parts when it takes a lot of individuals across the country to play a football game, and we get to see it on Friday or Saturday and enjoy it. But the work that went behind the scenes was fascinating to get that perspective. It dovetails a little bit into, I think, what you see sometimes in the government level, and especially at your local government. I appreciate some of the comments that Andrew said there about the Spanish Fork Way, and sometimes you see that end result and the good work that many of the departments, all the departments here at the city, do so well to make that production come off pretty flawless for the rest of us to see. So interesting time there. Appreciate the mention there of Local Officials Day. Last week spent some time up in Salt Lake, up at the Capitol, and then down at the Salt Palace, and it's really neat that the League of Cities and Towns can combine with the synergy that Silicon Slopes creates. That's in the media a whole lot, and we got to use their venue and their stage, their equipment set up and everything to pull that area off. Clint Betts, the mayor brought his name up, a Spanish Fork product, did us proud, as well as right before the main session was another Spanish Fork resident, Sammy Allred, that they have performed this play down at Salem Hills High School. I didn't know that they'd performed it there, but Every Brilliant Thing, which has to do with mental health and speaking to a younger audience about it. She did not to overuse the word, but she did a brilliant job at what she does. If you haven't seen it yet, I would encourage you to Google Every Brilliant Thing, see where it's playing. It speaks to adults as well, but especially the youth. If you can get a ticket close by of where it's going or wherever it's being performed, make sure you go. It was well worth the hour and a half. It took about an hour and a half and to that many kids in a room to be entertained for that amount of time and engaged was something else. So Sammy Allred, another Spanish Fork product. And then Representative McKell's son, Dallin McKell, did a good job. We brought him up on stage to ask a question of the Senate President, Stuart Adams, and the Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson. And he did a good job there as well. So I sent Scott some pictures. The other League of Cities and Towns duties that were performed were today. There's my son Nash, his friend Ryan, doing the 7th grade job shadowing today. So they got to shadow me all the way up to the 2-hour drive up to the Capitol this morning. It's a little icy, and but we kept them well fed. That's Roger too, long time. What you call it? I mean, lobbyist, but a longtime advocate for the League of Cities and Towns, spending his 40th year with the League of Cities and Towns on the Hill. So very cool. The reason for going up there in the morning was to interview a couple of the candidates for governor. This is Amy Winder Newton, current county council member for Salt Lake County and running for governor, also a former Taylorsville city council person. So it was good to ask her questions about what a Newton administration would mean to cities and towns, and she did very well. After that, we got to go up to the Capitol, and all of you know he'll be very pleased that I got him with his eyes closed on his picture. Mike Maurer, the chief of staff for the governor, took Nash and Ryan on a tour of the governor's office, and somewhat in the back of it too. There's Ryan.
Future governor.
Yep, future governor. Mike said that the real governor was over Denver about that time, headed back to the State of the Union. So that's why we could take his seat there for a minute. So very gracious of Mike Maurer to take these young men and show them around. They sat in on a meeting right before that. They sat in on a meeting with Mike Maurer and some other attorneys for the governor's office to discuss the opioid epidemic and what role that cities and towns play in helping the state out with that problem. Representative McKell was gracious enough to take him down on the floor and show him what he does there while the legislature's in session. We said bye to Mike. We went back down to after walking around. Went back down to this picture. I had him get a picture, and Councilman Gordon hit it on the head. The legislature is in session, so get up there and see what's going on. There's something every day happening on Capitol Hill, especially during this 45-day session. So if you get a chance to get up there, walk around and see what's going on. But this picture, you can see the mural in the background, is one of my favorite angles of the Capitol, because it is the Escalante and Dominguez mural. So where's that at? But right here in Spanish Fork. So I like to think we're a little bit more higher on the totem pole up at the Capitol as Spanish Fork people. So we got a picture with him there. Then we went back down to the league offices. I think I sent you one more, Scott, and did the same interview with former Speaker of the House, Greg Hughes, that's a candidate for governor as well. So that's my league duties today. There will be, we meet every week. Seth and I remotely tapped into our legislative policy committee meeting that happens every Monday. The next one will happen next Monday, and the Mondays during the session. So we'll keep tabs on what bills are being tracked and how they're looking and how that affects us as local governments to help in any way we can. The rest of the candidates for governor, we'll interview a couple more of them next week as well. Former Governor Huntsman, Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox, and I'm forgetting Jeff Birmingham. So we'll have interviews that will be published first part of March with those candidates for governor. So watch for that. And I hope everyone got the message that Spanish Fork is on the map. It's on the map at the league. It's on the map up at the state level, and it's because of the good people that are part of Spanish Fork. The solutions that we come up with, not always thinking inside the box, but outside the box to try to help find solutions rather than focus on differences, and that takes everybody here and all of our citizens. So thank you for that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Scholes.
Mayor, I have nothing to report this time.
Councilmember Beck.
I have a picture from Local Officials Day. We had our Youth City Council. We have about 60 members, and 28 of them were able to go up. They had an underground tour, went to a couple classes, and then met Senator Deidre Henderson and Representative Mike McKell, and it was just fun to be with them and have lunch with them. So we appreciate their efforts, and just watching how excited they get. They were able to go out on the House floor and they just get giddy. It's fun to see them, and we appreciate them missing a day of school to go up there. And then also with Youth City Council, on Valentine's Day is the Senior Citizens Dinner, and that will be at the Senior Center, and our Youth City Council will be serving the dinner. And so if any of our seniors out there are interested, Mike, are you over Senior Center now? Is that?
Be there.
You'll be there?
Yep.
Oh, good.
You'll
But-
be there too.
Well, I don't know. It is Valentine's Day, but can they just hop online?
Yes, yep. You can sign up down there. I think you can call Verna Joe. Yep, Verna Joe.
So just call the Senior Citizen
Yep.
Center. But it's a fun night. It's dinner and dancing. And then I wanted to let you know that the Fiesta Days website is live. You can just jump on SpanishFork.org website and go to events and the Fiesta Days application forms. So everything from the parade to vendor application and other events, sporting events, you can apply now to do that. There you go. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, let's go to Spanish Fork 101, UMPA Clean Air Program, our one and only Spanish Fork's finest. Take part of that back.
Kelly Peterson, Spanish Fork Power and Light Superintendent. So with UMPA, we've been working for quite a while trying to develop some type of energy efficiency or clean air program. And last year down at our conference in St. George, we kind of learned that a lot of our yard equipment does not have any type of emission system on it. So they do put more pollutants in the air than we thought they probably would. So we started looking into what could we do and what some of the things we could offer. So we've been looking into doing a clear energy or clear air program with UMPA. The parties involved in it are all the members, the utility members of UMPA. We've met with, for the northern members, we've met with the Solid Waste Service District. They've agreed to take the old lawnmowers, the gas-powered lawnmowers, to dispose of them there, turn them in, and then the residents can get a receipt from them that they did turn in a lawnmower to apply for a rebate back with that. We got Brightbridge Web to look on developing a website that's part of the Renew Choice program. And then UMPA still needs to look into hiring somebody to do the marketing, which we'll work with Spanish Fork and Scott to do some of the marketing and advertising on our city channel, on Channel 17. Scope of the program, UMPA will manage the overall program. They'll help educate and train the utilities and the billing departments on tracking this and working with it. They're hiring the web design. They'll do it through the Renew Choice platform. They're hiring the marketing firm to help with the kickoff event when this is going to be rolled out. They issue the rebates after receiving receipt and proof of disposal from the customer. So they'll be the ones issuing the rebates to the customers, not the cities. The city's responsible is to receive the applications and approve the said applications, track customers that have received a rebate so that they don't get duplicated. We're not, handing out more rebates to people that have already applied. And the customer's responsibility is to apply through the webpage, dispose of the equipment at the solid waste service district, buy eligible equipment from approved list of retailers, and then upload proof of purchase and disposal on the webpage. These are some of the rebates and the type of equipment that we're looking at offering. So if you are a customer that is disposing of a lawnmower, a snow blower, a grass trimmer, leaf blower, a chainsaw, we're offering some pretty good rebates for you to turn that in through the city. If you're a new resident that's never owned a lawnmower, we're still offering you an incentive to go out and buy a battery-powered equipment rather than buying gas. So we're offering a little less of a rebate to them because we're not encouraging them to buy gas-powered. So part of the rebates is we give a rebate, and it's either up to the purchase price or a $300 max on the lawnmowers and the snow blowers. Funding for the rebates is right now coming through UMPA Energy Efficiency Program. So we've been putting money aside as part of our energy efficiency. We have money built up in that account as Spanish Fork. The rebates will be on a first come, first served basis. So if we go through the money, when it's gone for that year, and then we'll refund it the following year. The amount of money that the city has is right close to about $56,000 in our energy efficiency fund with UMPA to fund this. We're hoping that'll last more than one season, but we're not sure. The proposed start date for the program is end of March, possibly the first part of April, that we're looking to roll this out and get it going. We're looking at teaming up with the local retailers here in town with Ace Hardware and Lowe's, but we're working with Home Depot too, where Provo's is one of our members, so we're hoping that we can work with those retailers to help offer some things to the customers with rebates. So, you guys, any questions?
So we'd be able to buy any brand of
Any brand.
band.
Any brand. It doesn't matter what type as long as it's a battery powered, or we haven't discussed, a cord or electric, but battery powered is getting so reliable nowadays and good that we're trying to push people towards going with battery powered equipment. So,
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Turn some time back over to Councilman Mendenhall.
I didn't get enough time first. Sorry.
Obviously.
Let's revert back, can we? Before I go to the chamber minute, I did want the active and healthy minute that I had written down and didn't mention either. I got in Councilman Gordon's truck a couple of weeks ago to ride somewhere, and up in the dash or in the visor fell out the QPR handout. Question, persuade, refer. Much like CPR to save a physical life, QPR is a class that's being taught all over the city and outside the city to help save someone suffering from mental health problems before they can get professional health. And I asked Brandon, has that just been in there? He's just one of those guys that's active that way. When he gets something that is helpful, he uses it. And so I wanted to commend him because I know he's the type of person that puts that stuff into use and has done it and is helping people in reaching out with QPR training and really carrying the brand for that. So I appreciate that. Heather from the chamber, our chamber president, is here with an update of all the goings on with commerce inside the city.
So our business of the month for February is Kneaders. We're doing that celebration on Thursday. That will be up at their store at noon. Also, I know that you all have mentioned the legislature. We help sponsor a Bills and Bagels, so you can come and actually reach out and talk to our local representatives at that. That will be this Saturday at 7, well, breakfast starts at 7 a.m. and questioning starts at 7:30, and that's just down at the Nebo School District office. So that will be this Saturday, and then again on the 29th when it's a little closer to the end of the session. On the 13th, we have a ribbon cutting for David Rowley and Associates, and our new networking luncheon. We are actually going to move that now to Thursdays so that we can kind of help everyone's schedules. We're trying to put everything on Thursdays just to kind of help everybody keep it all the same. And then we also have a ribbon cutting for Utah PC Pros on the 27th. That will probably be in the chamber office. He doesn't have a brick and mortar store. And then lastly, we're just wrapping up our magazine. We're really excited. We had some great submissions. We ran a photo contest this year for the cover. So we had quite a few great submissions for that. So you'll see the winner when we get it mailed out, which should be the first part of March. So.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. All righty. Consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Righty. Okay, public hearing, the ordinance A20-01, annexing property known as the DAC Swenson annexation.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. You accepted this annexation proposal several months ago for further study. Since that time, we've been through a protest period where a number of agencies were notified of the city's intent to study the potential of annexing the subject property. Also, the proposal has been before the Planning Commission, where they made a recommendation on the annexation and zoning, and it is ripe for you to take action on it tonight if the council would care to do so. The subject property is located just north of Revere Health, which is in Salem. It's right across what would be the city boundary then between Spanish Fork and Salem. It's located within the city's annexation policy. It's also located within the growth boundary, which now extends all the way out to Interstate 15 in this particular part of the community. This is actually a property that the city's been discussing annexing with the applicant for a couple of years. To make a long story short, I guess, the Planning Commission has recommended that the proposed annexation be approved. They've also recommended that at this time, rural residential zoning be assigned to the subject property. And to that end, relative to the zoning, we would not anticipate any imminent development with this annexation, largely because today there are not any utility services available in the immediate vicinity. So our little vicinity map here is not the most clear. This is Revere Health here, so this is 26.5 or so acres just north of that again. The Interstate 15 interchange is just, well, it's considerably off of this image, a little bit to the west. The closest developments would be Old Mill Estates and Academy Park, somewhat to our right there on Mill Road. The city purchased some property several months ago to construct a wastewater sewer lift station right about here. And the city continues to work towards having that facility designed and having something of a coalition put together between the city and some parties that are interested in doing residential developments in the area to fund the development of that improvement, which in essence would make it feasible, I believe, to develop not only the subject property, but to a large extent, properties all the way out to Interstate 15. That would deliver not only sewer service to the area, but also water and power. Those are some of the more expensive utilities to provide in a particular vicinity. So we do anticipate that, for example, should that lift station be constructed and be operational maybe in 2021, which I think is reasonable probably now to expect that you would see maybe some additional proposals for annexation in all likelihood development proposals, but at this time, the subject property would just be annexed and be assigned basically zoning, and we kind of keep it in a holding pattern until we're able to serve the property and the applicants have specific plans that they're ready to present to the Planning Commission and you for consideration. One other thing that I'll touch on, I'll try to be quick. There is an obligation that somebody has relative to buying out power facilities that are owned and operated by SESD. Sometime in, again, recent months, we changed some policy that we have in the city relative to the city's capacity to purchase those facilities at the time of annexation, rather than doing what typically had been our procedure previously, which is that the annexing party, which oftentimes was a developer, would pay for that buyout, if you will, at the time of annexation. The concept simply being that the city, at least how I see it, the city in essence would front that expense and take care of that buyout, with the understanding and expectation then that we would have something of an agreement in place with the property owner or owners of properties in that annexation, that when the use of those properties changes, like would be development, that they would reimburse the city for that expense that the city had already expended to take care of that obligation that we have for those power facilities. We've discussed that in concept with this applicant. I understand that they're comfortable with that arrangement. We would anticipate that the city, in this case, would make that payment to honor that obligation, and that when the use of the property changes, the city would be reimbursed. A little bit of a wrinkle, as I understand it, we still don't know exactly what that dollar amount is. I think our power department has made some guesses, but that's one thing that is still a little bit up in the air, which wouldn't necessarily impact the applicant at this point in time, but would down the road. I don't have a timetable for when we'll have a more solid final number for the buyout, but I would guess that we would have that in the next month or two.
Great.
There's no service on this property right now, is there? Or is there?
I think there is some power service.
Fire service, okay.
Yeah.
It's just a barn or a feed yard, kind of, okay.
No, there is not much.
Okay, thanks.
All right, this is a public hearing. I'd entertain a motion to go into a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gordon,
Second.
second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, anyone that'd like to come up and talk about this ordinance, so you're welcome to. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve ordinance A20-01 annexing property known as the DAC Swenson annexation.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Scobes. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Passes. Okay, ordinance 01-20, making amendments to the Development Enhancement Overlay Zone.
Once again, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And let me mention this now, just in case anybody's here waiting for item 8C. This is B, but we are going to ask that you continue item 8C when we get to that.
Continue it.
Yes, thank you. And we would expect to have that back on your agenda on the 18th of February, so in 2 weeks. But back on 8B, the proposed changes to the Development Enhancement Overlay Zone. This is really straightforward. First of all, this change would make it possible for an applicant, or rather a property owner that has property that's zoned residential office, to petition the city to employ the Development Enhancement Overlay. So it just adds the residential office zone to the list of zoning districts that this overlay can be used in. And then the next one, which frankly we think is, while still pretty simple, yet I think it's significant, it defines some limitations that would apply to the use of the development enhancement zone, to the extent of its use, maybe longevity, relative to its application being limited to just a specific use at a particular point in time. So maybe a practical result of that language that we use just as an example. The Griffles facility on the corner of Main Street and 4th North is kind of an impetus for this zone's creation. Should Griffles exit that property at some point in time in the future, that zoning would then revert basically back to the regular provisions of that underlying zone. And should a different business want to locate on that site, they would simply have to meet the zoning provisions that are in place for that property completely, or they would have to make a petition to have the development enhancement overlay approved for that property again, so that there would be an opportunity for that use to justify its presence there with any deficiencies that they have from a zoning perspective. It kind of gives the city another bite at the apple, so to speak, and the trigger would be the change of a business. I don't want to speak for Mr. Baker, the city attorney, but as we talked about this and talked with some potential applicants that would use this, frankly, we think this is kind of how it was intended to be utilized anyway. But in light of some discussion that we had in the last planning commission meeting, which I genuinely appreciate, I appreciate the direction that I feel like they gave, actually relative to the item that we'll ask you to continue here in a moment, where the use of this zone, again, would be tied very closely to a particular business, with the understanding that there may be a business that we can now very clearly quantify the impact of that business on a site and maybe a neighborhood, but the same property, same structure perhaps even, and things like that, with a different business could have a very different need for things like parking, maybe even landscaping, or some of the other fundamental things that our zoning provisions are intended to require. So that's maybe a longer description than I wanted to give, sorry. But those are the two proposed changes to the residential office zone. The Planning Commission reviewed this in their last meeting, and at that point in time we were only discussing the addition of the residential office zone to the text, but since then have added the language that's there in B with the limitations as a direct result of the discussion that we had in their meeting and what I think is the direction that they gave. So,
All right, this is also a public hearing. Let's go into public hearing. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
A motion by Councilman Argyle and a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone that'd like to come and discuss this item, you're welcome to come up. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Got a motion by Councilman Argyle, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any questions, comments?
Dave, I have a question, and I don't know if it's already inherent in the language, but let's use Griffles as the example. If I am the building owner, my business is to lease that building. And we've mentioned that business for approved business. Is there any need, and this may actually be more of a legal question, Junior, is there any need to quantify or to describe that rather than, my concern is my business is leasing out the property. And so if approved, even though my tenant may change, the business license may change, I, as the building owner, can keep the development enhancement overlay because my business hasn't changed, which is leasing out the property for different businesses. Is there any way to address that to be more specific, or to where it's the business permit, the business license for that immediate use, or how?
Well, I think that's already covered here in the language use. You notice we don't talk about the business, we talk about the specific use. So the use is based on what the business license is for. So really we're saying that, but we're talking about a specific use.
Right.
So that's going to drive it. And
So the specific use at the time of application.
so when an application comes, you're going to say, we want to put, a Griffles in here, we draw blood and plasma, and that's the use that you've approved.
Okay.
I might just add to that. I think we'll probably, in light of this change and the conversations that we've had, be much more particular about ordinance language and how we describe that connection between the use of the overlay and exactly what the business is. Sure. With the idea that we want to exclude then everything else. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve ordinance number 01-20, making amendments to the Development Enhancement Overlay Zone.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, a second by Councilman Scobes. This also is a roll call vote. Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
That pass. So we're going to continue ordinance Z01-20 to next
To February 18th.
February 8th. So I got that covered.
Do we need a motion to do that? I move we we continue item C, ordinance Z01-20, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for the Ludlow Development Enhancement Zone change.
Second.
Okay, so we want to continue the public hearing as stated by Junior to February 18th.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Ordinance 02-20, creating an aggregate overlay zone.
Once again, thank you. Another proposed change to Title 15. I don't know how to be real succinct with this. We've been talking about this for a really, really long time. And maybe looking a little bit bigger picture for just a second than the specific language that's proposed here. I don't want to mince any words or anything like that. This is really all about opening up an opportunity for a particular business in town that has a facility that we describe with this language operating on Arrowhead Trail. Again, opening up an opportunity for them to make application so that ultimately you could consider the approval of their potential relocation of that facility to property that the same company owns north of the airport. They've been in operation for decades on Arrowhead Trail. Over the course of recent years, on a couple of different occasions, you've approved residential developments for that site with the idea that facility would be relocated. Again, this is something that both you and the Planning Commission have discussed for a really long time, and what we've tried to do here with this proposed amendment is to create a particular zoning mechanism that would allow for what I just described to happen. And I want to maybe emphasize one thing. This is not tonight a request for you to approve that relocation, but rather just to change the text so that this applicant or maybe applicants that are in a similar situation could apply to have this zoning mechanism used so that they could build what we're calling basically an aggregate material transportation, storage and reclamation kind of facility someplace in the community, subject to provisions that we'll talk about in just a second. But given the history that we've had and the discussions that we've had, we've made a very concentrated effort to be detailed enough to try to limit just exactly how open the city's door would be for facilities like this. So you'll see, for example, some very particular geographical limitations that this language would have relative to permitting somebody to apply to have a facility of this nature approved. You'll see some size limitations for properties and different things like that that we as staff believe appropriately protect the community in the right ways from having this type of facility someplace that you don't want it. That being said, we also are very concerned about the impact that the operating facility has had over the years at its current location on surrounding properties, and that's been the subject of a lot of discussion, again, some of it with you, a lot of it with the Planning Commission, a lot of it between staff and the applicant. And we believe that with the explicit provisions that are built into this text, and with the opportunity that ultimately you would have as the city's land use authority on a zoning decision, a legislative decision, should an application, again, work its way at some future date to your agenda for consideration, that we can collectively do things to make sure that if a new facility is constructed, where we've talked about north end of town, that appropriate measures can be employed so that it can be a good neighbor, so that it wouldn't have an adverse impact on neighboring properties, and so that it wouldn't be a deterrent relative to the city's efforts to attract additional business to that part of the community. And I just put it this way, there wouldn't be a mistake, so we wouldn't collectively regret that move. I just want to say a couple of other things before I maybe turn the floor over to the applicants. This conversation that we've had, again, relative to this very specific business and situation, I think does require to some extent a little bit broader perspective evaluation as to the benefit or maybe the detriment that it might have on the community. So I guess now I'm in lobbying mode here a little bit. There are some things I think that are worth considering from my perspective relative to just land use in the community. Personally, I do feel like while the operators of the business on Arrowhead Trail have rights that they can continue to use at that location well into the future, I think it's certainly beneficial for the city as a whole, and particularly neighborhoods surrounding that site, for that land use to change sooner than later, and for that property specifically to be redeveloped for residential purposes. Also, I think we have a fairly unique opportunity at this moment in time relative to planned infrastructure and its development on the north end of the community, where it's almost serendipitous that we're having this conversation, where this potential relocation could really help facilitate future development with the infrastructure that would be constructed with this business and things like the solid waste transfer station and its construction and operation on the north end of the community. So those also are things, I wouldn't say that those are certainly primary decision drivers that staff has made in putting this language together and in recommending that it be approved. But those certainly have been on our minds, and to that end, the Development Review Committee has reviewed this. We've recommended that it be approved. That being said, just maybe to touch on the Planning Commission's meeting, where they reviewed this, lengthy discussion. It was great for me as staff to them to listen to them weigh the pros and cons and to express their feelings. I felt very candidly. I appreciated that it was a deadlock 2-2 vote relative to supporting this language or not. And I don't want to in any way try to overinterpret what I heard that night, but relative to the deadlock vote, one of the things that I thought was potentially compelling from one of the commissioners that did not vote in favor of recommending that this language be adopted He felt like timing was an issue. Like he was very clear about that, to where he would have preferred to have seen this language proposed with the specific proposal as well, those two things running in concert, rather than to have the request presented to change the language and then perhaps a month or two down the road having all of the details to the site plan and the specific zone change and things like that presented at a later date. And I can't argue with that necessarily. That's not, in my opinion, a wrong approach to take. I will say this, that the company that we're talking to, and I'm not trying to be clandestine, or it's Sunrock. I do think that the investment that they would make in preparing plans and different things like that to move forward to the next step is, it's certainly into the tens of thousands of dollars. And to that end, I feel like it's appropriate to certainly be clear about what the city would want to see as part of the city package, and make it clear that should they clear a certain bar with their application, that the city's intentions are genuine to consider that proposal, knowing everything that we know about it. In other words, I do see some value in taking these two steps on their own, rather than taking the approach to where we'd be on two paths at the same time. So again, Planning Commission did not provide an affirmative recommendation on the proposal. The Development Review Committee did, and with that being said, the applicants, I thought, did a great job in the Planning Commission meeting of answering questions about their operation, potential impacts, and different things like that. So unless you have anything specific for me, I think it might be good to hear from them next.
Okay, let's have them.
Thank you, Dave. My name is Jared Morgan. I'm with GWC Capital. We're a subsidiary of Clyde Companies, a sister company to Sunrock. Tonight I have with me also our Chief Environmental Engineer, Sam Bernard, who was present at the Planning Commission meeting and provided quite a bit of important environmental information to the Commission. So he's here tonight to answer any questions that you may have regarding environmental issues. And then we also have Brendan Henry, the president of GWC Capital, who's overseeing the future land use on our current operation on Arrowhead. And he and I are both jointly assisting with Sunrock with the relocation effort. So you have a good group here to answer any questions that you might have tonight. But thank you, Dave, for the introduction. I'm not going to expand too much more on what he said. I think that we've spent quite a bit of time trying to get your council comfortable with this concept, and we feel like city staff has been an immense amount of help, helping us kind of navigate appropriate steps, and that's where we landed tonight. We essentially agree with this text amendment step as kind of a precursor to our site plan approach, and feel like it's the right move to make. And we're comfortable with the language in the text amendment. We've circulated it internally, and we think it will accommodate our needs on the site. So we're just appreciative of the ongoing effort we've had with your city. So we have the slide deck tonight that was shown to you in the work session a couple weeks ago. Happy to go through that.
It's the same one?
It's the same one.
Well, first of all, let's ask if there's any questions. Like I say, we're not approving their facility, we're just approving the text amendment tonight.
Precisely.
So you'll come back, and my suggestion is, that's probably when we'll want to go back through the slide presentation, unless any of the council members would want to see that now again. No. Okay. And so if there's any questions other than what we've had before, if not, great.
Okay.
You did well.
All right. Thank you.
You did well, too. It's probably you just sitting there. All right, then. This is a public hearing, so I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone from the public who'd like to come up and talk about this overlay amendment? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
My comment will be in the form of the motion, Mayor. Just appreciate again, Dave mentioned it, but the good work of the Planning Commission working on this and working through this, and good questions, good data. Appreciate bringing facts and data for them to chew on as well. It's never an easy thing when you're talking about an aggregate overlay zone, I guess, because it's something that is maybe not the most popular thing to be next to, but it can't be too far out from your city, or else it costs so much money to build your infrastructure, and so the needs to try to get it somewhat in proximity. So I appreciate the good work of the Planning Commission, and in that vein, I'd move to approve Ordinance 220, creating an aggregate overlay zone in the city.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Scobes. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall, did
Aye.
I get you?
Nope.
Okay.
You got me now.
That passes. Gentlemen, go do your work and make it work. Thanks for being here. Okay, let's move on to new business, airport fill contract. Holy cow. And they all leave us.
I must not be as exciting.
Gee, Chris, what'd you do?
I don't know. The FBO at our airport, who sells fuel and kind of maintains the airport, is very interested in the expansion of the airport, having more hangars built, more more airplanes stationed at our airport. And so his son is a contractor and has a contract to haul off a bunch of fill from a project, and this fill is pretty good fill for building on and roads and things like that. And so he came to us and said what he'd like to do is take all of that fill and dump it into here, but the fill has some value, and not only that, he would like to take that fill and compact it in lifts and build it up and make sure that it is a good place to build hangars on. Right now, this is a low area that needs a lot of fill in order to build more hangars and keep expanding, and the cost to do that has kind of been preventing more hangars from coming. And so he feels like this would open that up to more development sooner, but asked if he could be paid back the cost to compact that and place that fill. As we discussed that with our attorney, the direction that we had is you have to go out to RFP and offer this type of situation to everyone. Although it seemed unlikely that anyone else would be willing to front $1 million worth of placement of fill and then just hope that people came and built hangars to pay them back. We did have a pre-RFP meeting where we had a few different contractors come in who might have opportunities to access fill like this, and we explained all the details of what is being proposed, and none of them opted to submit a proposal. We did get a written proposal from this contractor, and the written proposal asked for about $12 a cubic yard, which is a a very competitive rate right now. We've paid up to double that on some of our projects, but as low as, you know, $15 a cubic yard placed for fill. And so we feel like that is a very good number for if I came in to build a hangar and I had to reimburse for that, you would be getting a good deal. But another thing that it would do is it would invest $1 million of improvements into this part of the airport, which is our next growth area for hangars, and probably spur some more growth there, which was a real benefit to the airport. One of the things that we were concerned about is geotechnically, could we ensure that this fill would work, and what would it take to keep it in good condition so that it really would benefit future hangars. And so written into the, first of all, we hired a geotech to go and look at the material, test it. The geotech said it is good fill. It just requires them to be on site when they're rolling it and to establish good rolling and compaction patterns, and just inspecting it as it goes in to make sure that it's done right. But it would work great. It's similar to some of the fill used in other parts of this hangar construction area. The other thing is it's very important that you don't allow weeds to grow in there and contaminate the fill with organics. And so that's written in the contract that the contractor is responsible to keep the weeds down, and that he only gets reimbursed if that fill it actually does benefit future hangar sites. And so the airport is very excited about this project. Oh, it's $12 a ton, $21 a cubic yard. Yeah, $21.40 a cubic yard. There's about 1.7 tons per cubic yard place, but we did it in cubic yards so that we could more easily write an agreement for reimbursement.
So I have a question. The almost 12 acres, how does that equate to leasable value for the airport? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we actually collect for hangar space, I think it's like 32 cents per square foot. Hopefully that gives you kind of an idea. It would take me a while to calculate that in my head, but it would bring in a good amount of money and activity to the airport, which is a real positive.
Yeah, there's non-tangible benefit as well that we know about.
That money comes to us, not the FBO. The FBO relies on fuel sales and things like that.
Correct. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve the airport fill contract.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Carl James Land Lease Agreement.
Okay, this was a lot of work. Basically, the city took, and this I'm going to just talk about the next three items and just briefly go over it. Normally, this would be a consent item agenda, but I wanted you to understand kind of the process we went through on these. We took all of the city-owned property, and we had different leases out there, usually with the original farmer that was farming the land when we purchased the land, and at the same terms that they were paying to the previous owner. And that's usually what we've been doing in the past. We felt like it would be more prudent to go to an RFP process where you gave multiple farmers the option to bid on farming the land, and establish some process where that could be done over time and just be fair and open. We get a few inquiries of people saying, well, you know, I'd like to farm that land, what do I got to do? And we're already in some sort of a contract on it, and say, well, sorry, we already, but they never had an opportunity to propose on that. And so we've worked hard to kind of establish a system that we can do that, and these are the first three contracts coming out of that system. We actually meet on it, we interview, we talk about the details, because every land's very different. The proposals have to have a lot of detail about, you know, what improvements they might have to make in order to farm it, how they'll maintain the weeds on the site, which is the main benefit to us, is keeping the site so that it doesn't become unsightly with weeds and things like that. And so anyway, we're really excited about this new process, because we feel like it's very fair and prudent, and it was a lot of work for the engineering office to get this off the ground. So, and that's an X3.
So, Junior, can we lump all three of these together, or do we want them each individual?
I think you lump them together, we've got to individually identify the motion.
Okay, so
I make a motion, we approve the Carl James, Doug Huntsman, Jeff Williams land lease agreements.
Second?
got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I like the way we do that, Junior, thank you. SFCN cable TV rates. Is that
John, you want the clicker?
increase? Come on up and take the bullets.
Take the bullets. Ah, here we are.
Again.
They say that there's a time when you and your childhood friends went out to play for the very last time, and you didn't even know it. So this may be my very last time. It's highly likely, but it has been a pleasure. This has not always been a pleasure doing this one, but before I get started in this, let's talk about a little bit of good news. If you want to pull up the map, the Fiber to the Home project, which is, there's a lot of green on that map. Not enough for Councilman Gordon, but there's a lot of green on that map, and it's been an incredible project. We've stayed in budget. We have not taken out any new bonds to be able to do a Fiber to the Home project. We did not increase our rates to do a Fiber to the Home project. We still install it for absolutely free in a Fiber to the Home project. It is just a massive success and a wonderful asset for Spanish Fork. And kudos to all of you and to every member of the Spanish Fork Community Network, because they're the owners of this system. And we are the envy of Utah and one of the envies of the state because of our Fiber to the Home system. It is amazing, and it's just incredible how well it has gone, and it's a lot of hard work put into that. Brian Perry, the lead engineer, and also, of course, every single employee that has worked on this project for SFCN. I'm so proud of them and so proud of what we've been able to do, and proud of our customers and our members who have really just taken care of this system and have such a strong connection to the Spanish Fork Community Network. It really is a community network, and we're excited about it. All right, now on to the bad news. Whoa.
Sorry, I had to click back on those.
Yeah. we're both clicking away. So this happens every year. It's not my favorite thing in the world to do. There was some interesting things here that I looked up that I want to talk about. Of course, the prices are going up. You know why I'm here, right? Well, nobody's surprised by that. It always goes up. But let's see how this thing works.
There's another one on the clicker. There's a laser too.
Yeah. That's what they say.
That's really good.
The red,
Our tech guy
red line.
can't figure out the clicker.
I got it. Watch out. I'll point this at your eye. So the prices are going up. Now everybody was doing, the cord cutting, and they were going to the streaming services and those kinds of things. But interestingly, those are all going up also now. So we're starting to see those prices really start to climb. Why? Because they're subject to the same increases that we are subject to. They're not going to be immune from it. Those prices are going to continue to go up and go up and go up. This I thought was interesting. Last year's inflation rate, 2.3% is the inflation rate. And yet, the free channels you get with an antenna on your house, they raised our rates over 11%. There is just absolutely no justification for this other than they just are greedy. There, I said. They're just greedy. They just want more money. They think they can just believe it. Most channels went up about 6%. Again, substantially, more than twice the rate of inflation. So these guys, again, they just want to make more money. And they do that because they're losing their viewers, and so their revenue is going down because they're losing those viewers. And so how do they make up the money? And the way they do that is they just put it on the backs of the few viewers they have, and they continue to do that, and it is a downward spiral. And that's what we see. We see our number of customers going down because of that downward spiral. And it will continue. Okay, a little bit about the competitions. This one just makes me so angry. I put it in here every year. It's just because of the way they hide their fees. They'll tell you this great rate or even an introductory rate. But what they don't tell you is you get to pay a broadcast fee, which is now $15 per month. You get to pay $8.25 per month for a regional sports fee. Of course, SFCN doesn't have any of these. There's usually an installation fee. You have a reactivation fee if you disconnect. Those would be one time, not per month. You have an HD technology fee, whatever, right? And a digital box, because they don't have any what we call clear QAM. You can't just take the coax and plug it onto your new TV and have the ability of watching those channels. You have to have a digital set-top box, and they're going to ding you for a rental on that. I wish they were better. I wish they were a better company. And I've said this and I've told them this. I wish they were a better company. They'd make everybody better, and they'd be better for Spanish Fort. Unfortunately, they're not. So, here's the price increase. Remember, whenever we have a price increase in cable television, it goes to the penny, exactly what our cost went up. We don't protect the margin. We don't do anything like that. We just go up exactly the dollar amount. I don't know of any other cable company in the United States that does that. They may be there, but I don't know about them. And I go to a lot of conferences, and we just don't see people that do that. So this is what is going to happen to our rates. This is our current rate for basic, $24.94, and it is going to go up to $27.83. Remember, mostly this is affected by the off-air channels. So this is Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 13. And then all of their little sub-channels, you know, MyTV and all of those. If you have an antenna, you can get them for free. But we do add a few other of those. There's the Weather Channel. There's a couple other channels in there to go with it. But that's the rate. That's the dollar figure increase that we're going to have. And it's an 11.5% increase for basic. Our competition, I went looking for their rate for basic, and they really will only sell you basic, at least according to their website, if you also buy their internet, which is highly inferior. Expanded basic, this is the rate increase you see here. It goes up $6.10, so it's affected by this, obviously, because this is included in the expanded basic. So you also had some increases. There's a lot more channels in expanded basic, and that's why you see this $6.10 increase. It'll go from $87.55 to $93.65, and it's almost 7% increase in the expanded basic. Super Digital. So the price is currently $99.69. This includes all of basic and expanded basic and some additional channels, and it goes up to $104.63 for this year, and it's a $4.94 increase. Interestingly enough, this year, as unlike most years, this increase is less than that increase. And that, my friends, is why I'm wearing my SpongeBob. I mean, other than it's fetching, is the fact that Viacom, who owns Nickelodeon and those channels, their digital suite, which we have, which is MTV2 and Nick Jr. and all of those things that are in the digital suite, had a significant price decrease. And so that's why in this case, the Super Digital, and what that really means, I mean, the price still goes up, but it goes up less than the expanded basic, if that makes sense.
Does that just get more people to offer Super Digital?
No, we didn't do it. We only go with what the rate increase was. In this case, the reason for that is because they have really taken a beating on the Nielsen ratings for some of those channels. And so people just aren't watching them as much. And so and the NCTC negotiated that. It wasn't done by us. It was done by the National Cable Television Cooperative. And they negotiated a better deal for those other channels. And so that reflects right here. We don't, if the price goes down, that's great. So we're happy to do that. And we're happy to have this be less of an increase than it is for expanded basic. I wouldn't count on that every year. It probably won't be the case next year when Brian's up here. But I get, my going away present is it goes down a little bit. The full package goes from $131.70 to $138.64. The difference is $6.94. And the reason you see it's $2 more than that one, because the full package includes all of that plus the premiums, but we're going to talk about the fact that we have an increase in our premium cost this time. The triple play goes from $129.51 to $135.61. The increase is $6.10. It is the same as expanded basic, because triple play includes expanded basic, phone service, and starter tier internet. So that's what's included here. That's why the rate increase. We've never had a rate increase on our internet, and we don't have rate increases on our telephone service. So those stay the same. This increase is exactly the same because expanded basic went up.
So we don't have a double play.
You
What
don't-
if they don't take phone?
They can make a double play, but I don't. Yeah. The premiums, and this is where we see the other $2 increase on the full package, is because Cinemax is going to go from $8 to $10. And then the HBO Cinemax, because it includes both, goes from $23 to $25. These are a little different in that we make virtually no money on these. These are loss leaders. You need them to really be a cable company, but we don't really make money off them. So they're offered, but we pretty much just have to offer those at the price we get them at. Any questions on the rate increases and how unfortunate they are?
It's enough to make your hair curl.
And continue to grow. 3 years of saying I was going to retire, and I'm finally going to retire. So the competition, same thing as our expanded basic equivalent. It's not exactly the same again. They require set-top boxes, and theirs is a little different. They have different names for them, but it's over $100 for theirs, so we are competitive with what the competition is doing. Our rate will go into effect on March 21st, so we have to give, if you remember, we have to give 30 days notice before the rate can go up. That's required by the FCC. So it will go. We will send a mailing out and inform everybody that it's going to go up on March 21st. So that mailing has to be there before February 21st. And then they won't actually see it on their bill because we bill in arrears, which is also extremely rare for cable companies. You don't pay in advance. You pay after you've had the service. And so you actually won't see it until your May 1st bill. That's when you'll see the increase. And I think that's all. Do we have any questions?
What's your subscription of cable TV doing from the city?
Continues to go down. We affectionately call it the ski slope as the number of customers go down and go down and go down. And we will see that just continue. Quite honestly, because the price is getting obscene. And because of that, people look for other ways. Plus, there are a lot of other options. You know, when I was a kid, there was just TV or go outside and play with your friends, right? But now there's just so many more options and so many different ways that they can get their entertainment through streaming and whatnot. So it is going down nationally, and the same kind of thing that we're seeing here in Spanish Fork. And the trend will continue. That is just the way it is going to be. Good question. Any others? Good or bad? Thank you.
John?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You did good. Okay, let's move over to the Harmson addendum.
About 6 months ago, the city bought a piece of property next to the fairgrounds. That property, as part of the agreement, there were some environmental issues with that needed to be assessed to see what the cost would be to clean the piece of property. The original contract, which lasted for 6 months, it expires on February 10th. So we've got a few days. This is the last council meeting before that. One of the provisions in there was that the prior owner would clean up the surface debris on the property so that the state could come and assess the property to let us know what would need to be done to clean that up environmentally. It took a little bit longer to clean up the property than was anticipated, and so the state was not able to conduct the studies that they needed to do. And so what the agreement is before you tonight is a proposal to extend that contract for a period that would run through July 1st. So it would give us a little bit more time to assess how much it would actually cost if we needed to clean up that property. The good thing about this is if we get an estimate back that is too expensive to clean up, then we can get out of this contract and everything will reverse. The land will go back to the prior owner and the money will come back to the city. So this just essentially buys us more time to make sure that we've done our due diligence before we say the deal's done. So the version you have before you, there are actually a couple of red lines to that. So this would be the red line version that you would be approving tonight.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the HFLP property purchase addendum.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
If we can go back to the SFC matter, we didn't take a motion to approve those rates. We need to do that.
Oh, what if we don't want to?
We were hoping you just overlooked that and the rates would stay the same.
All right, let's go back to the SFCN cable TV increase. I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve the SFCN cable TV rate increases as outlined by John Boca.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I just thought that was John's parting gift for us.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Argyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Mike, do you have cable?